All right. All right. Well, welcome back, folks, to the Savannah Jams podcast, where we talk about all things related to the Savannah live music scene. My name is Scott Siegel. I'm the founder of Savannah Jams, and today we are coming to you live from Victory North here in Midtown Savannah, and for a big episode number 10 for us. So the topic of conversation today will be, can Savannah ever become a live music mecca like Nashville or Austin? Again, can Savannah ever become a live music mecca like Nashville or Austin? If we do, how do we get there? If we can't do it, why not? Et cetera, et cetera. So I felt like my three guests today are uniquely qualified. That's a word I'll probably throw around because when I was practicing my spiel, I do like that word, uniquely qualified. But I believe it. I believe you guys are. So my first guest is a alternative rock singer-songwriter. He has traveled and toured and performed in a lot of these cities we're going to be talking about, in a lot of these venues. One of the finest musicians Savannah has ever produced, Mr. Thomas Claxton. How are you?
Great, Scott. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
And my second guest has a background. These are really big headphones.
You can tighten them up. Just squeeze them together.
Okay, hold on one second, everyone.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. It's semi-professional here. Yeah. But thank you for that. So our second guest has a background in music management. She is currently the director of the Savannah Music Collective that helps out nourishing artists and promotes the Savannah live music scene as well. And she also sits on the board of directors for the Savannah Music Festival, Miss Mary Dugas.
Hello.
Hi, Mary. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. And
Thanks for having me.
Third guest, he also has a background in music management and a music agent, talent agent. He also is the current director here at Victory North, and some people say the glue that sticks the Savannah music scene together. He's been mentioned in every single podcast episode that we've done since episode number 2, Mr. Brian Goldman.
You're going to make me blush if you keep saying kind things like that, but thank you for having me, and I'm a relative newcomer to Savannah compared to these folks. Only haven't been here 4 years, but the local music community, first person I met was Eric Britt, and took me under his wing, so to speak, and introduced me to all you fine folks that work in music around the town, and I'm so glad to be here.
Well, yeah, so thank you guys all for sharing your time with us today. And like I said, it is episode number 10 for me. So this is a pretty big deal for me. Thomas, I know you've been podcasting for quite a while. And Thomas also produces his regular series, Me, Myself, and Us concerts, correct?
That's correct. It's been a fun run with that so far. As a matter of fact, that's kind of why I put I don't want to say the back burner, but the podcast on the back burner, because I got so involved in traveling and doing the music stuff in the concert series here in town. So I only got so much time, you know?
Yeah. No, well, I appreciate your time today, everybody's time. I know we don't have a lot of time here, so we're just going to dive right into it. Now, this is a topic that I have pondered over the years. I've discussed it with quite a few artists. I've discussed it with tourists, friends. We've debated back and forth. So, Mary, I'm going to start with you, actually, if you don't mind. I'll tell you the first question. So based off our topic, what would make Savannah a live music mecca? What defines a true music tourism destination? So what defines a true music tourism destination? Is it the history, the density of the live music, the artist migration, or just something else? What do you think?
No, I think it's all of that. It's all of that, and living in a community of people that love music and people that love to go see live music. So it's interesting if you think of the meccas that you were talking about, like Nashville or Austin or Seattle or New York. So much of it has to do with the artists that come up there and the community that supports them. What birthed the vibrant music scene in Austin? Austin City Limits was a big part of that. Nashville, way back when, the Grand Ole Opry was a big part of starting that. So I think Savannah's got incredible potential. And just starting the collective and getting to know the artists that we have here has been incredible and such a joy of discovery. But Savannah's got a ways to go. But I think that, and Brian can attest to this, I know, that there seems to be some really great energy around our local music community lately.
Yeah.
And with the new in-market arena on the higher end, and venues like Victory North that are supporting our local artists on the other end are just so important. And we've got all these local promoters that are starting to pop up and promote music as well. So there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, there's something in the water, I always say, in Savannah.
There is definitely something in the water. So do you mind if I talk about the big news of the day?
No, if you want, go ahead.
Because I just found out about this about a half hour ago, and I'm absolutely blown away and excited. Really have no idea what it means because I haven't spoken to any of the sponsors, but this is part of that energy that I think maybe have prompted this. But it came out in the news today. House Bill 762 passed at the state level to create the Savannah Music Commission. And the bill outlines the commission's. I'm just going to read it to you, or read the summary. The bill outlines the Commission's mandate to foster a thriving music ecosystem, emphasizing the importance of collaboration among artists, labels, and marketers. By creating a structured body to oversee these efforts, House Bill 762 aims to elevate Savannah's profile as a destination for music lovers and industry insiders alike. Anyway, and then it kind of goes on from there. I encourage anybody that hears this to go look it up. It's passed through the House, and then we'll go to the Senate. But I think that I'm really excited to talk to some of our representatives to see what they have in mind and to make sure that we can connect them with people like Thomas and Brian, who are really already working so closely and successfully in the music community here in Savannah. But I thought that was pretty big news. They're paying attention even from the state level.
So, Thomas, I'll pose that same question to you about what do you think defines a music tourism destination, and also if you want to react to the I guess breaking news, so to speak, of what Mary just said.
I also think it's kind of all of the above. A lot of the things that makes some of those what I call the big three, Los Angeles, New York, Nashville, what makes those places what they are their, history had a big part to do in that, the stuff that came out of the New York City music scene and the Greenwich Village scene and, the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles and places like that, it all played a big part into it. And plus those areas, are culturally tuned in to a lot of things, that they're oftentimes like the first ones to get a hold of certain things, so they're always kind of on top of the game. Yeah. Savannah, I don't know that Savannah, and let me finish this before anybody thinks I'm being negative, because I'm not. I don't know that Savannah itself is ever going to be like a Los Angeles, Nashville type of scene. It's not like that. Savannah has to be its own scene, and it's got to come up with its own identity and its own fingerprint, which I think it's well on the way of doing that, and I think it does have potential. When I hear things like what Mary just told us, I think that's great news. I'm always a little, because of the fact that I came up in this local music scene before I started doing stuff nationally, I do have a soft spot for the Savannah local music scene, and that is a very specific thing. It's not some broad brush that goes across, because I was one of the people that contributed to that scene for 20 years or more, and there's a lot of the guys that have schlepped their gear block after block after block to get to these local venues and the local bars and stuff. So I'm always curious when someone says they're going to do something here in Savannah, are they talking about bringing things to Savannah, or are they talking about, incorporating the local players into things like that? Because, we see some festivals here in town that sometimes don't even include local performers. And so some things sound good on paper, they look good, but I want to see where it goes, and I want to see how it benefits actual Savannah local players. Yeah.
Well, kind of on that level, Brian, I'll ask you this, since, Thomas just touched on, not necessarily that we should be just like them, but should Savannah invest in a music district? like, Austin's 6th Street or like Nashville's Broadway, or is it kind of a spread out scene? I know that you had talked about the owner of this venue wanting to do kind of like a compound area type thing. So what do you think about that?
I would love to see Savannah invest in its infrastructure and create I came here from Los Angeles way back when they built LA Live downtown, it was a complete resurgence for downtown Los Angeles. Nobody would dare step foot in Los Angeles before that. And you had some investors with ungodly amounts of money who came in and revitalized that entire area and put in live music venues, and it changed the entire demographic and what was happening in downtown Los Angeles. So I think if there was a way to create an environment where people could walk from venue to venue to venue, like 6th Street, and we're not far off from it in Starland District right now, I think that would certainly encourage people to get out and see live music and bounce around. And between Victory North and the Jinx opening up sometime in the near future, don't quote me on that, but I hope so, and Starland Yard having music all the time, and the Wormhole having music, there's certainly plenty of places you can walk around and see live music here. And to go back to your question is how does Savannah become a music tourist destination? I think we have to change the mindset of the tourists coming to visit the city and thinking, what music am I going to see when I go there? And if you think about going to Nashville or New Orleans or even Asheville, North Carolina, you think, where am I going to eat? What am I going to see? But what music am I also going to go listen to? And we just have to get that into the heads of people of, there is some incredible music here from the local musicians, and Thomas being one of them, that I don't think tourists realize how lucky they are to see. If you could have stumbled into McDonough's on a Wednesday night and seen Eric Culberson play blues. He's as good a blues player as you're going to find in this country. But we just have to get that into the heads of people that, as Mary said on her commercial this morning on 105.3 that I heard driving in, Savannah is a music city, and we just have to keep conveying that message to the visitors.
So, wow, sorry about that. So what do we, let me see, I just had that one I was going to say. So what do we already have that could make us a tourism hotspot? You had mentioned that, some of the venues around the Starland District, but what do we already have? And anybody can jump in on this. Like, what do you think we already have that could kind of help us get on the wave?
Oh, the talent. We've got just incredible artists here. Mm-hmm. One of the points of the Savannah Music Collective was the live music calendar, and I know that you get great information out about live music as well with Savannah Jams. But the priority of for the community, the Savannah Music Collective having a truly robust live music calendar, and actually it's and I'm watching the traffic just tick up and tick up and tick up on the calendar, which is great, and have had some great response from the Tourism Leadership Council. Michael Owens has been very helpful. I've got a QR code that I put around that gets a user directly to the live music calendar. And Michael Owens makes sure that all the concierges know that that's there, that information is there. And so we're getting there. We're working to get the word out. But I do agree, and I've had this conversation with Joe Marinelli, who runs Visit Savannah, that there is so much room for entertainment in Savannah. We've got however many millions, 17 million visitors coming a year. I'm not sure if that's the number or not, but there's so much room to entertain them. And so I'm hoping that, Visit Savannah or the tourism industry can really start focusing on the live music aspect it's something for people to do, but not just the tourism. I think that we've got an incredible community of people here that are music lovers in Savannah. So just making sure that they have a place to go to get that information, to me, is so important. I go to shows all the time where and I tell somebody about it, and they're like, oh gosh, I would have loved to have done that. People just don't think about live music being an option to go out for entertainment. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. But I think we can change their minds if we just give them the information and show them the incredible talent we have here.
Okay, so you're thinking of more of like a getting the word out information-wise, specific information. Thomas, you look like you want to...
I think that's where it starts. Yeah. It's not it, but that's where it starts.
No, of course, yeah.
having been here for so long, I've seen the music scene here in Savannah through many iterations. I've seen it from what I considered to be like the peak of it at one point, which was, I remember, I'm the busiest I ever saw, and I don't care how much they want to inflate the numbers around here. The busiest I ever saw it on St. Patrick's was 2007. That was the absolute busiest I've ever seen it. And if they keep telling me that the numbers are double that every year from now on, I'll never believe it. I don't care what anybody says.
I've always said that.
Because there was an ocean of people in downtown Savannah. And when 2008 hit and the housing bubble burst, it changed. And it's never been the same again, period. And I know that because I was there. I was standing on the street. I saw it all. I was part of the music scene, really hardcore back then. I'm a little checked out of it now. It's refreshing to see some of the local talent that's coming up now, because some of them I'm seeing for the first time because I'm gone so much, but I get people now asking me, have you seen this guy play? I'm like, I don't even know who that is, but then I go see him and I'm like, oh, wow, that's great. Good stuff. And I think what Savannah already has is the talent. I mean, they've got it. What the talent needs, in my opinion, is to, and I've always said this, I've been saying this for many years, most of the people around here that perform, talent's only going to get you so far. Talent's great, but the problem is a lot of them don't actually understand the business side of the music industry. And that changes things, because that's when you understand the business and you understand how things actually work in the gears of this industry, that's when you start to see real growth from every angle, not only the local music scene itself, but also yourself as a performer. You wind up seeing things from a different lens once you really gain an understanding of the business. And I'm also convinced that that's why a lot of musicians around the world don't actually get to accomplish a lot of their goals, because they don't get how this business works. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. This is not always a pleasant industry to be involved in. It's very rewarding, but at the same time, there's an aspect of it and a realism of it, and I think sometimes, when I talk to people, they think I'm being negative about certain things, and I'm not. I'm a realist about things, and I put things out there like, okay, here's where it is, and here's where you say you want to be. This is what it's going to take to get it there. And sometimes that's a conversation people don't want to hear, because they want to believe, that it's already great. Well, and, I don't necessarily believe that all the time.
Over the years, it's been, certain people have, I've heard that before, like Mary said, it starts with the talent. I've heard, no, it's the venue's fault. There's not enough venues. And then I've heard it's the city's fault as far as like red tape and stuff. So,
I've never been one to...
I'm not uniquely qualified to, I'm just a fan.
I've never been one to blame venues, because again, I'm very real with things. I had a guy one time tell me, well, I've been playing around here for 30 plus years. Why I'm only making this much? I'm like, well, how many people are you bringing into the venue? If you go into the venue and you might be talented, but you're putting people to sleep, and people ain't coming in the door, then who deserves to make more money? This new kid on the scene who's bringing 150 people into the room, or the one who's been playing around here for many, many years, but, putting on a snooze fest? So it's not always the venue's fault, these things. I do think the venues sometimes need to pay accordingly, but still,
Yeah, that's another topic.
That's another topic, right?
Actually, that I wanted to get all of you guys involved with again. But
Thomas, I agree with you 100%. And that's one of the aspects of the Savannah Music Collective is the professional development aspect of it and the programming that we're putting together.
Say, you guys do stuff like that, right?
Yes, which is has just been so much fun, and it's been a joy to bring the resources that and just whatever experience I have had in artist management over the past 25 years to our up-and-coming emerging artists in Savannah. So we've done a few different programs connecting younger artists with the more experienced artists. He had to cancel because he had to have surgery, but David Barbie from the University of Georgia's music business program is going to come down later, early in the summer, to talk about mainly how to monetize streaming platforms, for instance, but to do Q&A with up-and-coming artists. I've got some production people coming to town to talk about really high-level production and how that works, and listen, and also really just listening to the artists to see what kind of information they are looking for to help elevate their careers. But I've had some fantastic conversations with up-and-coming artists who have reached out to the collective that are just looking for advice on one thing or the other. So actually, when I think about this bill that's passed, what can they do if they can provide, support to support this professional development programming? That would be amazing. On the advisory committee of the Savannah Music Collective, I've got Brian Goldman, who's got long experience in the music industry, Andrew Sovine, who's an incredible, successful musician and producer, and Trey Myers, who is Turnip Blood Entertainment, who's been incredibly successful agent, and they're all bringing their resources to the table. Michael Edwards on the legal side, just all bringing great resources on different levels to these artists who need it.
It sounds like we have the talent. We have we're getting there with somewhat of the nurturing and some of the younger people. We do need a lot of the business side of it. So let's go back to the venue part then, Brian. I'll ask you that. Or actually, just not even that. As you guys are talking, I'm skimming my questions. I should have double spaced it. That's the problem. That's why I keep looking over at it. But so part of that, we're talking about the. You okay?
Yes.
What's in that drink, Mary? We need to know what you got in that cup.
Not what I want to be in that cup.
Hey, I worked in bars a long time.
This episode takes a turn now. So what about like city policies and stuff? So I know that you guys here have had trouble with zoning with like the the parking lot and with the compound idea that you said that the owner kind of wanted to do. Is it because a lot of people, like I said, they'll blame the city because of like noise ordinances and zoning and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on that, Brian?
The city certainly.
And I don't want to blame the city. I'm not, like Thomas said, I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy over here. Like I'm just asking questions that I've heard people discuss.
I think there could be a clearer path to accomplish things we wish to accomplish. A lot of times, people might have ideas, and you try to figure out how you get it done, and nobody really knows how to get it done. And you go to the City of Savannah website to try to figure it out, and there's still not a clear answer there. For example, I would love to shut down 43rd Street and do an outdoor music festival out there with bands up and down the street and an all-day festival, and allow people to have their beverages of their choice out on the street, whether it be alcoholic or non-alcoholic, and trying to navigate the system to figure out who do I need to call about noise ordinances, who do I need to call about shutting down the cities, what do I need in terms of police presence, what do I need in order to have a one-day alcohol permit outside. It's so much work to get through the minutia of trying to figure out how to accomplish that. I think if there was a more straightforward, streamlined path to accomplish these things, we'd be able to do a little bit more.
Well, and let's also be honest. We all know that owning a music venue is not for the faint of heart. Yeah. It's really difficult. In Savannah's, I think, and also a little bit of a tricky place in that we have all the tourism industry who are actually paying artists to come in and play their bars. And so you can, even our best artists, you can see for free if you go downtown amongst the tourists, a lot. And so I think aside from the bigger shows that Brian and District Live are producing, people aren't really quick to pay a cover or buy a ticket for a smaller artist.
Hence a lot of these ensemble tribute shows that me and Brian have talked about before. Yeah.
Well, also too, I mean, Savannah's music scene, as far as the patrons go, has always been very interesting. Yeah. They don't prepay for tickets around here like a lot of cities do. And that is a thing. I don't care what anybody says. It's a thing. I remember one time there was...
And it's just getting worse.
It's getting worse.
I'll interrupt you for one second, if you don't mind. When I started here and coming from big cities like Los Angeles and Chicago, a show went on sale, you bought your tickets because it was going to sell out. And when I started working here, I was looking at shows, and 3 days out we're at 30% capacity, and I'm going, what the heck did we do wrong? Did we buy the wrong show? And then you see 50% of your tickets sell for that show in the last 3 days, and you go, oh, it's okay. And you learn that's just the buying pattern.
That's the way it is around here.
But it certainly doesn't make our life any easier or want us to risk more money.
No, it adds to the anxiety a little bit. I luckily haven't had that issue very much with the Me, Myself, and Us concert series because of the fact that I've kind of built my own fan base for that concert series. So they, the folks that
phenomenal.
Well,
it's such great artists. I mean, that's so good.
Well, I mean, going back to what you were saying, what you both were saying, before I go into that, but like, I remember years ago there was I think 95.5 was in charge of promoting this. I can't remember, but they were involved in it somehow. But there was a tour called Rock Never Stops, and this was so many years ago. And I remember they asked my band at that time to open for this, and it featured some of the who's who of the what you would call the hair metal scene from back in the day.
Like the Scorpions?
I mean, they had a number of bands. White Snake was there, Dawkins was there, I think Quiet Riot was a part, Slaughter, all these bands. And you would think that once you tell someone that a band like Quiet Riot or White Snake is coming around, that it would sell at least to that market. You know what I'm saying? But getting closer to it, and I don't remember the exact number, so nobody quote me on this, but getting closer to it, Rock Never Stopped. They bypassed Savannah completely because at the end of the day, they had pre-sold 50 tickets 2 weeks out. And it was just not good. And a lot of promoters, and I know these promoters, I know a lot of these folks, having worked with the people that I've worked with, which is kind of the reason why I started doing the Me, Myself, and Us concert series, because I had to make a commitment, kind of going off of what Mary said with these, some of the players, and this is going to, whether people want to hear this or not, this is an issue. It's a hard sell to tell people to buy a ticket for this when you can see me for free 2 days later down the street. It's a really hard sell. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying there's not a path to it, but it is a hard sell. When I started doing the concert series stuff, I had to make a commitment to stop playing 98% of the local bars. And the ones that I still play are not even places that I consider like a typical bar, like Coach's down the street or something, because it's an outdoor live music venue. So I have a great time playing in places like that. And Flashback out in Richmond Hill, I play at every once in a while because I've got a great relationship with the owners. But it took a commitment to stop doing that. But that's a thin line there, because if every musician in town stopped playing the local bars, it would be also devastating to the local scene in that way. Like, they can do without me, but they can't do without 98% of them if they drop out, so it's a hard thing to do. But
those artists can't go without that money either.
They can't. But see, that's another thing too that also took a lot of sacrifice, because of the fact that I didn't know how this was going to turn out, and I had to be willing to risk it. And it's a hard thing when you're used to making, which I think is crap money these days, but when you're used to making $150 for a 4-hour gig, and yes, I am speaking to several places on River Street, but when you're doing that and you're making $150 for a 4-hour gig, or $175, whatever it is nowadays, that's crap money. Yeah. That's what they were paying in the late 90s, early 2000s, man. With inflation and the value of the dollar, these musicians around here should be making $250 bare minimum to go in and play a 3 or 4 hour gig in a local bar.
You heard it, folks.
That's the way I see
Amen.
it. That's the way I see it. My grandmother taught me, you get what you pay for. Yeah. So you want certain things, you got to pay for certain things, and that's just the way it is. But the concert series stuff, the reason why I was able to do that is because I had built up relationships with all these different people that I bring to town. I mean, 90% of them that come to the concert series are folks that I've worked with or recorded with or toured with in the past or whatever it was. So it was an easy phone call for me just to call my buddies up, to call Leland Sklar from James Taylor's band up and get him to come to town for this sort of thing. And the partnership that I've had with the Gretsch School of Music over at Georgia Southern really makes it something that I've enjoyed, because that's something that we have discussed here in this, about kind of, getting some of, I think that you change the future by the present. I've always believed that, so there's a whole new cast of musicians that are enrolled in this school right now. Mm-hmm. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, guys, look, I'm bringing you Liberty DeVito at 19 years old. This is the drummer of Billy Joel. When I was 19, the drummer Billy Joel didn't come talk to me. That was the way it was. I'm trying to, put this out here for you guys to give you an in-depth perspective of how the business works at a very young age, so that going forward, those students and students all in various areas that are going to move here, they are the future Savannah music scene, period. I've had my day, so it's interesting to see it, and that's how it's going to grow, in my opinion.
Reminds something of what the last time I interviewed you and Stan, we were talking about Susanna Kennedy or others, and he was like, in 5 years, I want the musicians busking on the street to be playing a Susanna Kennedy song or something like that. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, they're the future. So, we know we have the talent. We need to probably invest in there's obviously the red tape there. There are commissions being founded. So there's some things, we have the collective trying to nurture artists. We have Thomas trying to, so there's hope here. We have some people trying to do some good things. I've always wondered, is it just our size? I mean, because what's the historic district? 2.2 square miles?
We think Savannah's bigger than what it is sometimes.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. That's true. We do.
What do they always say is the small town with a big city feel?
Yeah. It's just, is that part of it? So there was a question in here. I should have double spaced this, and I can't find it, but it's about what can, obviously, New York, LA, Nashville, Austin. Well, Austin, I'm sure you've been there. I haven't been there, but size-wise, how is it compared? Because I hear it's a lot like Savannah as far as creativity.
Creativity-wise. Yeah. Size, not so much.
30 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. Really?
30 years ago, Austin had half a dozen bars, and it just became known as a place to go see great music.
Well, South by Southwest had a lot to do with that.
That helped a little bit, too.
South, definitely. Well, and then, you've got markets like Athens, and I spent 20 years in Athens, and it's much smaller town. Yeah. But the university, those kids love to go see music, and the locals love to go see live music. And on any given night, there's just that small downtown concentrated area where you can see many bands, and people don't hesitate to walk in and pay $5, $10, $15 cover to see a band, even if it's someone they don't know. And then also there's that established success of the artists that have come out of Athens, starting with REM and the B-52s onto Widespread Panic and the Drive-By Truckers and whatnot. And so it's the bands that are coming up there see those artists who are still fairly local in Savannah. In Athens, see those artists, and I think it gives them a path to success. So,
well, that's another question I was going to say was because Georgia has been a wildly successful state as far as iconic artists. I would say, I don't know if you guys
absolutely.
So do you think a lot of it is people are chasing that, or the younger artists are chasing that? Do you think that's a problem, and that they're chasing that, and that they're not taking the time to do the dot their I's and cross their T's, like Thomas is talking about the business side of it? Obviously that could be a dumb question. I don't know, but it's just there's a lot of moving parts of this whole conversation,
Well, artists forever have been taken. I think artists, whether you're a musician or anything.
Yeah. That's true.
And I would not have a career if artists did not need someone with communication and organizational skills.
That could go beyond music.
Well, what artist wants to deal with that stuff? You know, I mean, honest to God, it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
To have to deal with the business end of things.
Oh, I had a
sometimes.
blast. I don't know what you're talking about. I had a blast.
But most songwriters and people that are out, they want to be creative. They want to do the artistic side of things, and it's great because that's what they are.
It's not the way their brains work.
No.
Well, so too, because we're getting short on time here. So, and like I said, there was originally 30 questions that I had for this, and I narrowed it down to about 10 or 12. We've only really touched on like 5 or 6, but I know we have to get going here soon. But so let me ask you this, because a lot of these conversations that I've had with tourists, with artists, with just friends, what does it even matter? Does it even matter? The topic of this episode, does it even matter? Should we even care about that, or should we just say screw it and just be ourselves and just?
Oh man, no, it matters so much, and Brian can tell you too that what the conversations and the connections that we've made through the Savannah Music Collective has been, it's working. It's absolutely working. We did the podcast with Stan about the singer-songwriter event that we had this past Sunday night that sold out in one day, and our efforts to elevate original songwriters in a quiet listening room. It was phenomenal. So no, I think having the conversation is so important, and connecting people, finding out who's doing what, and we've just seen collaborations start to happen and all sorts of support for our local artists.
All
right, Bri?
So, go ahead, Brian.
To answer your question, if we're looking at the very base element of it, does live music matter?
No, of course.
I didn't ask anyone in this room, and they'll say it's hopefully it's the most important art form there is. And I'll never forget my first time into New Orleans, walking into Preservation Hall as a tourist and hearing that music and going, "Holy shit, what is this?" And then going to Frenchman Street and listening, walking up and down and hearing all the music on Frenchman. It's a life-changing experience. And there's no reason we can't do that here, that some tourist walks in to a bar and hears music. And I remember coming back in the day as a tourist when the Bayou was still open. Is that what it was called down on River Street?
The Bayou Cafe.
And
I pretty much ran that place.
Thomas was born there pretty much.
And I think it could have been Ben Kaiser playing. I didn't know. I was a tourist, and just thinking, oh my God, the music here is incredible.
Yeah.
And so, exposing, the more people you can expose to live music, the better off they are as human beings.
Of course. I mean, I didn't mean to downplay. Obviously, you guys, I wouldn't be doing what I do if I didn't care about live music. I just meant that some people have mentioned, should we even try to emulate what Nashville or they are doing, or should we just leave it alone and just be ourselves and just become our own unique, if that makes sense.
I think we would be better to do our thing and find our own, like I said earlier, our own thumbprint on this than try to emulate another scene. It's
could we, if we did emulate it, what could we borrow from them or steal or,
I mean, one of the things that I always enjoy about playing in other cities is how informed some of the folks are about what it is that they're going to watch. Mm-hmm. There's some cities, I don't know whether you want to call it, I don't know whether you want to call it cultural or whatever it might be, but then again, like, you're in certain areas where they, a lot of this stuff comes from those areas. Mm-hmm. So of course people know more about certain things. It's interesting. I don't know. I think Savannah, I think sometimes you have to keep things in perspective of what Savannah actually is. And when you keep it real, it's going to grow the way it's supposed to grow. And I think there's a ton of potential. I was trying to find this quote earlier from David Bowie. This is what it is. Here it is. I found it. Never work for other people at what you do. Always remember that the reason that you initially started working was that there was something inside yourself that you felt that if you could manifest it in some way, you would understand more about yourself or how to coexist with the rest of society. I think it's terribly dangerous for an artist to fulfill other people's expectations. I think they generally produce their worst work when they do that. And the other thing I would say is that if you feel safe in the area you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little out of your depth, and when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting. That's David Bowie.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about a person who didn't care what everybody else thought and didn't want to be everybody else. I mean, that's the guy right there who pretty much had the blueprint for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Savannah's got to find what happens. You know, I mean, I never spent any part of my career looking at anybody else around me wondering, you know, what I could do that they're doing. Mm-hmm. I did my own thing. If it worked, it worked. And if it didn't, it didn't. That's totally fine, you know. But I think Savannah's got a lot to offer. I'm excited to see where Savannah's going. It's a different music scene around here than it was when I was more involved in it. Yeah. And, you know, but that does...
changed a lot even since I started doing this about 7 or 8 years ago when we first met. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Brian, thanks for the shout out to Bayou Cafe there, man.
Yeah.
God. That's, I tell you, man, that place...
Yeah,
that place is wild.
That's actually another episode idea I had on, you know, talking about the you know, the old spots like, you know, Bayou and such like that. But so I see you looking at your watch. I know we have to get out of here really quick. So last question, I swear, last question. Brian, I'll start with you. 5 years from now, what do you want? What do you hope that people will say when they think of the Savannah music culture? 5 years from now. 5 or 10?
Two things. One is, you know, how proud not necessarily proud, but how amazing it is that a small little city like Savannah is producing such great music. I'd love to see an artist, you know, quote, break out of this town and become a nationally known figure, and have people go, oh my God, you know, so and so came from Savannah. That's incredible. You know, similar to, you know, Omaha, Nebraska, where 311 came from. Like, who the hell comes from Omaha?
Really?
Well, 311 did.
I never knew that.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's a town in the middle of nowhere.
Nebraska.
I used to ride on the road and listen to Amber all the time.
Amber's,
that was a mellow tune.
That was one of the bar songs.
Maybe they've got 100,000 people that live there, and that started this great music scene out there. And the other thing I'd like to see, you know, 5 years from now is you know, agents and managers, you know, when they're thinking about planning their tours, you know, thinking Savannah's on the route map. It's not, we're going to play Charleston and then we're going to go to Jacksonville. Yeah. It's Savannah's going to be a must stop because we know people are going to come out and support the shows. We know our artists are going to get treated well.
And they got to prepay for them tickets.
And, and we know we're going to sell at the shows because you heard it from Thomas here, buy your tickets in advance.
Yeah. Mary, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what Brian said. I agree with everything he said. I'm looking forward to more venues that develop artists and their original material.
Yeah, Thomas, final thought?
I agree with everything Brian and Mary have said here. It's interesting and exciting, like I said, to see where it's going. I am a big proponent for more venues, like Mary said, with more targeted stuff toward original material. You know, so it's you know, one thing that I love also, not to keep dragging this out, but I love also. I was telling somebody this the other day. The music scene around here is very different from what it was back in the day. And I know because I'm kind of in the middle of the two generations. When I see some of the older generations of local musicians, they have more of a family type of approach to things. They all know each other. Mm-hmm. Musicians used to know the history of the local music scene. Nowadays, I guarantee you, I could go find a musician who's been playing on here a couple of years. They couldn't even tell you the name of a band in the 1980s and 90s around here. They don't know who these players are anymore just because they got a little bit older. You know, it's an interesting thing, too, because I see they'll have these get-togethers and everything, and all the older musicians get together and they come out to support one another all the time. And nowadays, it feels like it's very cliquish.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got their little circles and everything.
I have felt that way, too. I've never admitted it, but
I'll say it in a heartbeat, you know. Everybody talks about they want to focus on real talent, but then some of us never get called for anything.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting to see that because you're not part of the clique. You're not part of the circle of things, you know. But Savannah has such a huge history. For God's sake, Johnny Mercer's from here, man. I mean, come on. Johnny Mercer, the founder of Capitol Records, is from right here in Savannah, Georgia. You know, so Savannah's just got a lot to offer. I'm excited.
It does. Have you seen that Marshes to Mountains compilation that Jim put together? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that to me, when I saw that and talked to Jim about that, I was astounded at the list of artists.
But see, Jim is one of those people that knows that history
Yeah,
to
he
go
does.
back in time.
We should do a program about the history.
I agree.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Jim likes to talk. I'm sure he'll be happy to. Podcast. Love you, Jim.
Shout out to Jim Reed. We miss you, Jim. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your time with me this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
And
Thank you.
Thanks for the invite, brother.
Yeah, we could talk more and more about this. I don't know if we came up. So, did we? We didn't even yay or nay. Can it become it or no? Really?
I think it
Yeah,
can
or nay?
become its own special thing.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Well said. Exactly.
Yeah.
I really don't think Savannah is ever going to be Los Angeles, Nashville, New
There
York,
you
or
go.
Austin, but I don't think it needs to.
And
be.
I was going to say, I don't
Yeah.
think we need to. Yeah.
No.
So on that note, thank you guys again. So stay tuned. Keep listening to the Savannah Jams podcast. Until next time, keep jamming, Savannah.